I'm standing in front of the Lexus LC500, RCF and GSF to celebrate what could potentially be the last use of their naturally aspirated 5-liter V8. We're going to discuss why each one of these cars is unique and special in the marketplace, why you would potentially own one, or at least learn a little bit about it. Let's take a look. Now, when I had the opportunity to gather the 3 Lexus products that have the 5-liter naturally aspirated motor, it took me some time to figure out what I wanted to do. This is not a traditional review. It's a celebration of cars that are uniquely flawed, but also uniquely special. While the Germans get together and try to compete with each other, looking at spec sheets, how to over-engineer everything, you're left with the feeling that they have this sterile experience. They all run together. Now, while the Lexus products may have some serious deficiencies on the spec sheet side, they do some of the best work in terms of interior design, exterior design, and driving experience. And a lot of that is helped with the engine. Let's start with the RCF. With the updated 2020, you have an interior space that looks like nothing else in the segment. And the use of stitching, cross-stitching, the design of the seats, which happen to be one of the best seating designs that you can get for under $100,000, you feel immediately connected with the car. There's no German product, there's no Japanese product, and there's certainly no Korean product that matches what it looks like. Now, there are some deficiencies, of course. That is, the infotainment is complete trash, and the interior design is last generation. So things like HVAC controls are touch sensitive, but overall, the aesthetic is where it is completely unique. Then we get to the GSF, which shares most of its interior with the lower trim levels. Now, they have decided to spruce it up by adding the F seats, which again are amazing like the RCF. There are uses and tasteful uses of carbon fiber, and then you have all the usability of the regular sedan. However, because Lexus can't decide on a centralized control structure for infotainment, you're left with this joystick that has prevented them from adding updated features like Android Auto. The audio systems in the RCF and GSF suffer greatly compared to the LC500. These are things that are offset by the uniqueness of the interior space and driving characteristics of these cars. Lastly, the LC500. This interior space is a showcase of what Toyota and Lexus engineers can do, from the carbon composite door frames to the door panels that have this long sweeping line outlined by alloy trim, special materials. The door handles are integrated into the door card where you wish for more mechanical design like this. The dashboard has this ultra-modern feel without resorting to gimmicky materials like piano gloss or shiny plastichrome. Overall, this feels like a special space because it is. There's nothing like this on the market. And what it does is it helps to create an emotional connection to the driving experience. When you see the carbon fiber door sills, the thicker pile in the carpeting, the solidness that every single panel or grab handle has on the interior, you don't need to know anything about interior design. You don't need any fancy marketing words or buzzwords to tell you that it's one of their best engineered products they've ever made. Now, there are, of course, deficiencies here. Again, with electronics, the infotainment feels dated already and it's brand new. There is no back seat room. I don't know what you're gonna put back there. The trunk space barely fits my cat litter. And of course, this may not fit every single body type. But again, every car is about compromise. And Lexus and Toyota wanted to create this not to be German, not to be Swedish, not to be American. It is uniquely Japanese. And that's a great time to put this on the lift, the RCF and the GSF, to talk about the technical attributes. Welcome to the mechanical segment on the RCF, GSF, and LC500. We're under the LC500, Jack.
Your favorite car. I know you have a bedroom poster of this.
Yeah, not yet, but I will tell you one thing. I've been complaining about how difficult it is to raise cars. This thing took 2 seconds. It's like raising up a Toyota Corolla. It's that easy.
And it's not another German car, Mark.
Oh, yes, you're right. So let's talk about the F products. The first production car was the ISF, which was more of a skunk works design.
Yeah, a small team of dedicated engineers basically worked after hours to build that car, though technically the LFA predates it.
So once the ISF came out and the LFA came out, the LFA kind of refocused the entire company on what Lexus was trying to be. So as an evolution of that, we had the RCF, which was their first F product post-ISF. And that car, because of the budget and there was kind of an experiment, they had to combine 3 different elements. When you look at the RCF underneath, it has the GS front subframe and suspension. The middle section of the car is from the IS convertible, which no longer exists, and the rear suspension was from the IS.
It's basically a Frankenstein car, and that's not necessarily a negative thing, but it's true.
Yes. So part of the balance and some of the problems with that car is that, you can only do so much with that. The successor to that was the GSF. And when you look at the underbody of the GSF, it's its own dedicated platform, although a legacy platform. The GS is no longer going to be in production, according to Japanese Toyota. So when you look at the GS, it looks like a luxury car. Double wishbone suspension, tons of aluminum, coilover dampers, independent rear suspension, and the LC500 is now the replacement for all of that. Well, they're still selling the GSF currently, and the RCF, this is kind of the future of Toyota luxury products and high-performance machines.
So between the RCF and the GSF, how do they differ in drivetrain and suspension specifically?
Good question. So the RCF has adaptive dampers, and in the back you have 2 options. You have a Torsen limited slip differential, and you can do the optional torque vectoring differential, which TVD, which creates a completely different driving experience.
So if you want to slide around, get the Torsen. It basically allows you to do hellacious drifts like you can do in this LC500. But if you want to maximize your grip, decrease your lap times, you're going to get the TVD, but it will not allow you to slide around the car.
That's correct. The GSF and the RCF, however, share the same engine, the 5-liter naturally aspirated unit, and the same 8-speed automatic or direct shift automatic torque converted unit, which is an evolution to the ISF's transmission. The cool thing about the RCF and GSF is they both have engine and transmission coolers in the front half of the car, so you never really have an issue with temperature, even when you're pounding it around on the street, and it can take some track time if that's what you decide to do, something that the LC500 does not have. Granted, this is not an F product, but this is built on the GAL architecture, save for the LS, the LC, and whatever future SUV they're doing.
What advantages does it grant it over the GSF and the RCF?
Well, for one thing, it's the most rigid body structure they've ever built. It's even more rigid than the LFA. It uses extensive use of aluminum, front subframe carrier, the knuckle, the hub, you have dual ball joints in the upper A-arms. However, in the back, there's an option for a Torsen, limited slip differential, or an open diff. They do not have a TVD on this car, and potentially they'll do it on an F product when they do an LCF. But one of the main reasons why it doesn't have a TVD, they left the Torsen as the option, is, according to their engineers, it's about the driving dynamics of this car. It's so rigid, it's so different in its feeling, it's more connected than the GSF and the RCF. It moves around more naturally. It is able to rotate through corners. The only thing that they did put on here is a rear wheel steering module, which is part of their performance pack. That's where this car starts to feel a lot more nimble.
So I drove the original LC500 with you about a year ago, and that car was open diff and did not have rear steer. That car felt, I'm not going to say cumbersome, but much bigger than this does. The rear steer does allow this car to shrink, though I thought the RCF also got rear steer.
The RCF does not have rear steer. The RCF only had a Torsen differential option and a TVD option. The RCF Sport got a rear wheel steering module, and according to their engineers, they felt that the rear wheel steering module in the RCF did not suit the character for what the car was.
Interesting.
So it's these choices they make based on their lead engineers of what they want the car to be drivability-wise. And they split off some of these features, I think, on purpose so they can have different trim levels. That's part of it.
So mechanically, past the 10-speed, which we'll talk about in a second, what else is different with the drivetrain here? The
drivetrain is the main difference here is the transmission in terms of drivetrain. The 10-speed is that evolution of the 8-speed that's in the GSF and RCF. It is far quicker to respond. The gearing is almost like this. They show a chart. It's rhythmic. They want that manual shifting experience or automatic shifting experience to feel like constant, where there's no huge dips or delays like when you go into first, second, third, where you feel a huge drop. The other thing that they tried to bake into the 10-speed is it's smoother than the 8-speed automatic, and the personality is more, you can tell the personality change based on throttle position. So if you're like 25% throttle, a luxury car. Yeah, total slush box. When you go about 50% throttle, the shifts get faster. When you go flat out, specifically in Sport Plus mode, those shifts are as fast as most dual clutch transmissions, and they are hard, they're fast, they're quick, they're lightning quick.
The 10-speed has a lot of character.
And with that said, I think we've talked about this enough. Let's get this out on the road and see how they all drive.
All right. Well, Mark, I was wrong.
Really?
Something this car has in spades is character. Something that the German cars don't have, something that basically nothing else in this segment of luxury GT cars can come close to. And when I first drove this car about a year ago, I didn't like it. I approached it the wrong way. I didn't drive this like a yob. I drove this like a sophisticated gentleman. And when you drive this like a monkey, it's phenomenal.
So what changed your mind really about it from when you were first in it? Did you come to an approach like you were looking at it like a German GT car or like a British?
I looked at it objectively, on paper, and that's not how you approach this car. You approach this car as an emotional purchase, unlike the many German counterparts like the 8 Series we just did, or some of the Audi products, or the Mercedes. This understands that driving is about an experience you remember long term. And because there's so much induction noise, the way it looks, the interior, and its many compromises, you'll always remember this car, when a lot of the other products in this price segment, you just forget about.
Yeah, and it's a big point because we've been in and out of these $100,000 cars now, and you think, well, you know, for that type of money, once you start crossing that line, it's got to be more than just a corporate badge and a corporate-like identity. This car definitely has some of the most character of any vehicle I've been in modern history.
I entirely agree.
And some of it is just...
Yeah, you never ever get tired of that. I mean, I am not shocked when I look at our street MPGs when I got in this car yesterday and it said 11.
Yeah, but that's what it's trying to do. It's trying to make you feel something through the sound, through the look, the feel of it. It's such a unique experience. I will say, coming out of a car like the Supra, this is nowhere near as fast. but it's about 50 to 100% more rewarding and fun to drive, because every day you get to experience, all your senses are excited, and that is why I love this car.
It's not a car for someone who buys a vehicle based upon its specs. Lexus acknowledges that, and now I understand why, right? It's not about 0 to 60, it's not about the ring time or lateral G's, it's about
I'm setting off at Autobahn Country Club, the only place I can really explore the F products properly, because to do some of this on the street is just stupid. RCF was one of the first F products after the LFA. The LFA launched this whole series of things, and you had the ISF, and this was the continuation. However, the RCF is more of a skunkworks car. I mean, we talked about it in the shop, how it's 3 different cars kind of stitched together to give you this coupe shape that resembles some of the LC concept that came out. But as a car, after the years of evolution, the suspension has changed and been improved. This specific car has the TVD, which shares the same TVD that's in the GSF. And of course, you have all the new fancy interior appointments with the multicolor options. But driving this, there are a few things to know. It feels a little bit more understeer prone than the GSF. So there's not a lot of camber in the front of this car. You can just kind of feel it washing out a bit. The other thing to talk about is the engine. Although it shares the same engine with the GSF and the LC500, the 5-liter. Take a listen to this. That's correct. There is fake engine noise that you can't turn off, and this is the only F product that has that. But the main thing to say is this is more than adequate for the street, and on the track it's still pretty enjoyable. Again, it favors understeer, but it also seems to want to also oversteer the most out of all the cars when you get it out of sorts. It kind of goes through this understeer state, and then when you power it out, it wants to completely go sideways. But it's in Lexus form, it's completely controllable. All of these cars have the same characteristics that will never let you get to the place where this thing is gonna go into a tree like a Mustang or some of the higher horsepower cars. So there's always this safety net that you feel. This, in terms of ride quality compared to the GSF, feels a little bit more firmer. It's the ride compliance isn't as good in the softest settings. And on the track settings like now, to me, it's just about the right balance. You get a little bit of that rebound feel to it when you're driving, but the main thing is the engine. Now it's time to take the GSF out for a spin. Oh yeah. Immediately you can hear that this has a bit more induction noise than the RCF, and you can turn off the fake engine noise. But the main difference to talk about between these two cars is they share an 8-speed automatic. And I'm going to explain the way this works briefly for those who would like to know. There's multiple different drive modes, from Eco all the way to Sport Plus. And as you ramp your way up, the transmission performance and throttle response changes. So one of the big knocks on the F Sport or F transmissions in the V8 models is they're kind of weird at the lower RPM. If you manually shift them, they're herky-jerky. They don't respond all that smooth. So it's always been one of these cars that if you plan to drive this slower, you just want to keep it in automatic. Because if you do, it kind of knows the G-force of the car. It will cue up a gear based on the load, based on the yaw rate sensors, all the things, the steering wheel angle, so it's in the right gear for you in terms of driving in an automatic experience. If you want to use the paddles and you want to go into manual mode, you need to be going foot to the floor. But really, at the end of the day, this is an enormous vehicle, one that is going away, and we know that. The GS might be replaced by something else, but we know in this form factor, there's not a lot left sitting on dealer lots, and they're not going to continue to produce many. And for the size of this, the experience is so unique because of this insane V8 that has an engine sound. It has induction noise, and that is one of the most rewarding parts of driving the GSF. Final thoughts on the LC, the GSF, and RCF. I sought out this project. I wanted to do it. This engine, the 5-liter that is in all three of these cars, has been known to be almost bulletproof. It is super reliable. It sounds great, as you've heard. There's a lot going for it, and the most important thing is it's going to disappear soon. Global regulations, many companies have talked about, the heads of companies in engineering have said, global regulations are going to make it next to impossible to make high-performance naturally aspirated motors. And it's so sad because the automotive world at this point in time for enthusiasts is getting to be a mixed bag. Things are more expensive. Things are a lot more complicated than they used to be, and everything is going turbocharged. Everything is forced induction. And when you do that, whether you love the extra power and the torque, there's also a lot that gets zapped out of it. And so many of these cars that I'm in now, they just don't sound like a whole lot, or they're adding fake engine noise or augmenting all of it. So the purity of these three Lexus products are very special, and they are not sports cars. They are not for everyone, and I'm not even saying that they are the best thing ever. They are completely flawed. In fact, I would say, you know, like the GSF, the infotainment, some of the technology, the RCF, it's a mixed architecture between three cars, and the LC doesn't fit a whole lot. It's not all that practical. So why am I celebrating cars like this? They're different. They are unique. They're original in certain ways. The GS as a whole is going away. So there's not a lot left on the market. And if you're watching this later, it's going to become harder to find used ones. The RC is way easier to find an affordable used version of it, but at around $90,000 as we tested this, there's going to be very few people that are going to want to invest that money on a new model. The LC is still in production, and we know it's going to be around for a while. I've been in the convertible. I've seen the changes to the 2021, and that car, from where it started to now, all the suspension changes, it's become a more soft, more comfortable driving car, and it still brings out a lot of smiles. And that's the whole point of motoring at this level. If you're spending a ton of money, you want to know that you're getting something back. The reliability factor is huge for me. And that's one of the major reasons why I also love these cars. I know that it's not just going to go in the garbage heap in like 5 years when things break, or if things break. Now, I want to say a big thanks to the people that helped to make this happen. Jen from Toyota, Ron from Autobahn Country Club in Joliet, Illinois. It's one of the best places to take cars in the Midwest if you really love to drive. And then, of course, Jack, Chris, and Johnny America and Catherine Brewster for helping all of this go through. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.